So, there's something that's come to my attention, and well, it's something that's knocked on my door before. It's something that I never really paid much attention to until very recently. And it's that I've had a realization that I really am my biggest adversary. Now, what do I mean by that? Because that's a big thing to unpack, right? You are your own biggest adversary. And I'm sure that some of us may have heard that before. But what does that really mean? Well, how I sort of unpack this bag is that being your own biggest adversary really means that you get in your own way, you stop yourself from doing the things that you want to do. You are the force that prevents you from having the very life that you want to live and have. Preventing you from being in touch, in contact with the people that you want to be with. You are the reason why you don't have the level of income that you want. You are the reason why you have the health that you do. Whether it's great, whether it's something that could use improvement, it all comes back to you, comes back to the self. All these things, for me, come back to me. Yes, there are things that have happened in our lives. There are people that have influenced us, events that are out of our control, that have caused things to go in a certain direction. Absolutely. But ultimately, we pretty much dictate what happens in our lives. And at some point, we have to muster that self-responsibility and self-control to navigate ourselves to move into the direction that we want to move into. And I feel like that's a very scary thing to own up to, because I've noticed that a lot of us have a really tough time with self-responsibility, with really looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying that I am getting in my own way. I am the reason why I am here and why I'm not over there. I am the reason. It's a very painful realization to really acknowledge and understand it at the very core. It's a very painful process, because everything that you're doing that is, hurting you, that's keeping you behind, that's preventing you from moving forward, it all comes back to you. It's acknowledging that you aren't doing things that you aren't doing. And it's not an easy thing to realize. It's not an easy thing to acknowledge and really own up to. And I'm going through that myself. If you watch my other video, I was talking about how for a couple minutes that I really wanted to upgrade my finances, so to speak. I really wanted to begin to understand finances and really level up in that category in my life, because it's something that I've really ignored. I didn't really, of course I worked and I do this and I do that to maintain and pay the bills and, have some left to do whatever I wanted to do, but it wasn't enough. And I knew it wasn't enough, but I've avoided that big time. And it's not until recently in which I really sat down with myself. I meditated, I thought about it, I thought about what I've been doing, why I've been doing it, and now I have to take ownership for that. And that's hard, that's extremely difficult. It feels difficult, But it has to be done at some point. We have to, at some point, go through this process and really take responsibility, to stop pointing fingers and stop blaming other people for our problems. Now, I don't like to talk about problems unless I have a solution to offer. But I think that in this case, there's not one size fits all type of remedy for anybody and everybody that has this issue to a greater or lesser extent. I think that how I'm basically going about this process is to essentially know and acknowledge what it is that's holding me back. What am I doing that's holding me back? Write it down, type it out. I like writing things down, and essentially avoiding that thing and replacing with something else. Because when it comes to habits, bad habits, it's really difficult to just remove that habit and have nothing else there. What I realize is that not only is it a gradual process to kick an old habit that's not serving you, but you have to replace it with something else, right? Think of it like a building foundation. One of your habits is a big chunk of the foundation of your building. If you remove that foundation, well, the building's going to collapse, right? But if you have something else to swap out that habit for a better habit that serves you better, serves other people better as well, then you're going to be in a much better position than before. So that's pretty much my solution to it. And of course, there are several ways of going about that. Perhaps we can talk about that in another video, but I just wanted to cover that on a surface level. And not only do, in terms of being my own adversary, I've also learned that being scared of doing the things that you want to do, and being afraid of, being afraid of failing, being afraid of making a fool out of yourself, when you let those feelings get to you and control your life, you are being your own adversary. You're allowing this fear to just keep you where you are, to keep you doing something that you don't want to do. And I've really noticed that a lot of people, many people, they're dictated by this. They want to play it safe, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you allow yourself to keep playing a particular area of your life safe, and you do that your entire life, and you have regrets at some point later in life that you wished you did something, you wished you tried to switch careers, you wished that you went out and climbed that mountain, you wished you learned that new language, you wished you understood yourself better, you wished you did this and you wished you did that, and now it's too late and you can't do those things. That's tragic. That really is tragic. And that's something that I don't want to happen in my life. I don't think that anybody wants that to happen in their lives. But in order to not have that, you have to be willing to not let that fear dictate and control certain aspects of your life. That's hard. Because how do you conquer this fear? How do you do it? Again, I think everybody has a different way of going about this. Everybody has a different vehicle to a greater or lesser extent, of facing their fear or not facing their fear at all. One of the things that I like to do to kind of face this fear, and I'm not perfect, right? Because I still have my faults. I still have times when I fall down and I go back to where I was because I felt like I wasn't prepared or ready to do something. But one of the things that I do to face a type of fear is that I really meditate and I think about, how would it be like if I didn't do this? What would it be like if I stayed doing the same exact thing for the rest of my life? What if I never evolved? What if I never continued to read? What if I never continued to update my skill set? What if I never continued to work on my social skills? What if I never continued to do this and that? What would things look like if I stayed stagnant? And I see that as not the type of future that I want to live. I see that as if I continue to stay stagnant in one aspect of my life, I'm going to be living in what I call the bad timeline. And that's the timeline in which you fear that you don't want to be in. So you try to prevent it. And how do you prevent it? You take action, you face that fear, and you move forward with it. And you realize and understand that the pain of living in that bad future and that bad timeline, that pain is greater than anything you can face right now trying to avoid it. That's how that's my method of facing these fears. That's my method of getting out of my own way, of not being my biggest adversary. It's like owning up and facing the challenges that you've set for yourself in place. And I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a very strong aspect of self-development, I feel. Because you're really going out of your own way to get out of your own way, if that makes sense. You know, and it's something that only you can do. Other people can't do it. Even if somebody did give you what it is that you wanted, you won't maintain it because you never learned how to obtain it in the first place. A great example of this is lottery winners. Anybody who, in most cases, not all cases, because I'm sure there's somebody who was responsible with their obtained wealth, but you can look at the majority of lottery winners, they lose their money within the first 3 to 5 years, if not less. And the reason for that is because they never obtained that level of wealth before. They don't know how to get it, and they don't know how to keep it. And so it's like they obtained a brand new boat, but because they don't know how to take care of the boat, they punch a bunch of holes into the bottom. And eventually, before they realize it, the boat is sinking and they're back to square one. And it's a shame that that happens, you know? So you have to go out of your own way and build yourself up from the foundation and maintain that and continue to build. Nobody can give you the things that you want and have you keep it for the rest of your life. Sure, I'm sure there's some things that, yes, you can argue that you can't keep that someone has given you, sure. But for the most part, and we're really talking about, you know, living your life. I'm not talking about material possessions. But in most cases, it really does seem to be the case that in order to get something, you have to work towards it, you have to build towards it, and you have to maintain that. Success, this is another thing that I've learned too as well. Success is something that is maintained. You don't just work really, really hard for a short period of time and then keep what it is that you've achieved. You have to keep going. You have to maintain. And that's, while it may seem obvious, it really wasn't obvious to me, right? I'll give you a perfect example. So last year, I was working with a great friend of mine, and we were making videos for a particular industry. And we basically had a really great deal and thing going where every client that he obtained, I would achieve a level of passive income from it. And it got to the point where I was making a great deal of money every month by doing nothing because of what we had arranged, and it was working out for him and it was working out for me. It was fantastic. But the problem was, I put all my work in and I got comfortable at that passive level of income. And of course, that didn't last because later on, he wasn't able to, he didn't necessarily keep these clients. And if he didn't keep these clients, I didn't keep my passive income. And that was a very, very every cold lesson that I learned, that you have to keep things going. You can't just work hard. You can't just do something once and expect that to hold you indefinitely. So that's something that I've learned, and I got comfortable. I got reliant. I not completely reliant, but I did rely on that much more than I should have. And to be honest, I'm thankful for that lesson, because if it wasn't for that, then I would probably have to learn that at a later time. You know, it would probably be more inconvenient to learn that lesson, because I would probably have more responsibilities as I did before, as I do now. So, but that's just a great example of, success is something that you have to maintain. You have to continue to work at. Being your own adversary, not letting yourself be your own adversary, is something that you have to maintain. Not allowing yourself to make this bad timeline happen for you, is, it takes work. It takes maintenance. Just looking around here. So, I think that's all I really have for you guys. We are the reason why we're not living the lives that we want to live. Again, yes, there are things that do get in our way. There are obstacles and hurdles that sometimes pop out at us. Sometimes we get T-boned by something that we did not see coming. I understand that, yes, but for the most part, we are the reason why we're not where we want to be. And at some point, we have to take full ownership on that, because if we don't, then we're going to run out of time. We're not going to be able to do the thing that we wanted to do, and you might have to live with feelings of regret. And I don't think that's anything that anybody wants to have. That's not what I want to have, and I'm sure that you don't want to have that either. So that's all I have to say, guys. So if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, be sure to leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate that, and I will see you guys in the next time.